It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccerphiles Canada. Welcome to Series 30, looking at the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode is looking at the players of Guadeloupe. Part 1, the candidates. Here we go. Hello and welcome to the International Soccer Preview by Soccerphiles Canada. I'm Kevin and this is Series 30 on the players of the 2025 Gold Cup. This episode covers Guadeloupe's players. Just a note on where we're at in our mediacast. Series 21 to 27 dealt with the 2026 World Cup qualifying. Series 21, for example, is covering the Asian region. And we actually did do a preview on the preliminary round there. And we were hoping to do more previewing, but life got busy. So we nevertheless still have hopes of covering it, but now we'll have to do it mostly through reviews. So the past, present, and future mediacast that we produced way back in the spring of 2024 is still useful. It outlines the World Cup 2026 qualifying procedures in each region. And we will add a link to that mediacast in the show notes. So we'll come back to the World Cup 2026 qualifying, but we'll do that after our current focus, which is this 2025 Gold Cup, and in particular, this episode on Guadeloupe's players. So we're doing the mediacast in two parts for players. Part one here is a look at the candidates for the squad and their likelihood of making it. We examine the participation of players in games over the recent period as well. Over the recent period, as well as a couple of other factors, and we categorize them into definite, likely, possible but unlikely, and seemingly off the squad. So we will go into more kind of career details on the players we think likely to reach the final squad, and then less, perhaps even just the names of players unlikely to get there. Part 2 will come out when the squad lists are released and the final squad selected, probably in early June. And at that time, we'll go back over the list that we create here and see who made it and who didn't. And we'll also cover things like injuries and surprise selections. And our focus in part 2 will actually be predicting starters there. So this episode has 3 sections. In section 1, we look at some general information on the team. Section 2 is where we cover the main candidates in each position and their likelihood of making the squad. And in Section 3, we summarize and conclude, especially focusing on injuries to keep an eye on. Let's begin then, and we will start with some of the big names off the squad. Well, Guadeloupe doesn't have really big names. They don't play a lot of friendlies, and of course they don't do World Cup qualifiers, so they don't have players with 100 caps like some other teams do. So we just have a couple of names here. So the first name is Cedric Avenel. Cedric Avenel is 39 years old now and had 26 caps for Guadeloupe between, get this, 2008 and 2023. So he was actually a starter in the 2009 Gold Cup way back there, and also a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup. So a long career there, but that Gold Cup was his last appearance for the national team, and he is retired not only from Guadeloupe, but from football altogether. Next we have Mikel Alphonse. And he is 36 years old, also retired from soccer, 23 caps for the national team. Both of these players were born in France, as many Guadeloupe players are. Mikel Alphonse was a starter in the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups. In fact, he was the captain of the team in the 2023 Gold Cup, but that was also his last appearance for the team. So farewell to those two players, and we move on to our next order of business, looking at the recent games. The games we'll be looking at over this period for Guadeloupe. And not many actually. They, as I said, don't really play friendlies because a lot of their players come from France there. So they did make the 2023 Gold Cup, and that's where we begin. 3 games in the Gold Cup there in June 2023. They didn't pass the group stage there. Shortly after that, in the fall of 2023, we have their Nations League competition. So they were in a group which played 6 games between September and November 2023. And then we go all the way to the fall of 2024. So they played no games in March or June. And 2024-25 Nations League group stage was 4 games then in September and October. In November, they played the first of kind of 2 playoff sets for the 2025 Gold Cup. So 2 games in November 2024, 2 games in March of 2025. So not many games compared to most teams there, just 17 overall. And we're going to look briefly at the formations in those games because that kind of comes up when we talk about the players and their positions. So 17 games, 10 of them were in a 4-2-3-1 formation. So definitely their favorite formation there. 10 out of 17 makes up 59%, or we'll call it 60% there. Then they had a 4-3-3 formation in 5 of the 17 games, or 29%, and then a 4-4-2 in 2 of the games, or 12%. So just those 3 formations, and we'll do a bit of analysis to look at the patterns there. Always then that's a 4-man defense, so it's always 2 central defenders plus a right and left back, and none of the complications that we see with other teams when they use a 3-man central defense. So pretty straightforward in defense. The forward line also quite straightforward. It's a single striker in 88% of games. That 4-3-3 formation, we consider it a single striker with a left attacker and a right attacker. We'll talk about that when we get to those positions in section 2. So nevertheless, 88% in 88% of games a single striker. So think of again, Guadeloupe, think of the 4-2-3-1 formation for the most part, and you are good to go. Let's take a look at their upcoming games. Well, in June, a lot of the smaller teams in CONCACAF are playing in World Cup qualifiers, but that is not the case for Guadeloupe because they're not an independent country, and they didn't schedule any friendlies either. So no warm-up games for Guadeloupe, and we move on to Section 2. Section 2 begins with our manager. So here's where we take a look at the players and their likelihood of making it here in Section 2. And we begin with manager, and just one name to put on the list here, and it's Jocelyn Angloma, Guadeloupe's most famous player there. He played for France and for Guadeloupe. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, I'm not. I'm supposed to give a bit of biographical information because we only have the one manager. So played for France from 1990 to 96, and then for Guadeloupe in the 2007 Gold Cup there. His big clubs were Valencia in Spain and Inter Milan in Italy, and also Paris Saint-Germain in France as well. So a very renowned player, and has been the manager of Guadeloupe since 2017. Not a lot of managerial experience beyond that. Just manager for probably the biggest club, or one of the bigger clubs in Guatemala, L'Etoile. There from 2009 to 15, but only that one team, but manager of Guadeloupe for a long time here. Okay, and he managed them through the 2021 Gold Cup and the 2023 edition, and has been manager through this whole section. So we don't need to talk about who he's replaced or anything. Sorry, I'm losing my plot a little bit here. Let's summarize the position. Angloma, again, manager throughout the whole period. He led them to the 2023 Gold Cup recently, and they would have passed the group stage there, but for missing a late penalty in Game 3. Nevertheless, he stayed on as manager and led them to victory in their Nations League B group in the 2023-24 season, and that earned them promotion to League A. However, in League A, they finished 5th of 6 in their group in the 2024-25 season and were relegated back to League B. However, they won playoff sets over Cayman Islands and then Nicaragua to reach this 2025 Gold Cup. And this is their second appearance in a row, having last made the Gold Cup back in 2011. So Jocelyn Angloma, a successful manager for the most part, and we think he's a definite candidate. In other words, won't be changed before the Cup. Let's move on to goalkeepers then, and we begin by naming the candidates first and then looking at the main candidates in more detail. So we have a definite candidate in Bryce Cognard and two likely candidates. The first one, Ruben Adelaide, and the second, Davy Ruard. If you're watching the YouTube, you'll see that Ruben's Adelaide is in grey. That means he hasn't been through a tournament, while Bryce Cognard and Davy Ruard are in black. That means they have tournament experience. Moving on to our possible candidate, we have Teddy Bartusz Selbon, and then we have a possible but unlikely candidate in Christophe Denis. And I'm going to do the bio on these less likely players as we go. So possible but unlikely, Christophe Denis didn't start any games in the period and was not selected for the last 6 matches there. So there is a chance of him coming back in, but we'll deal with that in part 2 if he does. Let's look at the definite candidate, or the main candidates, beginning with definite candidate Bryce Cognard. And he is 35 years old. Just 8 caps since 2022 for Guadeloupe, so a bit late joining the squad here. He was born in France, and his club career has been all in France. So you'll see a lot of the players on Guadeloupe are French-born, and sometimes join the team late. Possibly because they're hoping to get onto the French national team. And when they don't, they join Guadeloupe. That's the case for some of them. Anyway, Bryce Cognard, selected for the 2023 Gold Cup, but a backup keeper there behind Davy Ruard. Over the last recent period, and we're actually judging the participation of players from the 2023 Gold Cup. But he was absent for a while after, a 15-month absence, returning in October 2024 to start 5 of their 6 remaining games and on the bench for 1 other. So kind of coming in at the end there and seizing the starting spot. The first of our 2 candidates is Ruben's Adelaide, and he is 27 years old, just 1 cap for the national team since 2024, and he also plays in France. For most of these players, I have whether they're born in France or Guadeloupe, but I don't have that for Ruben's Adelaide. He was actually selected for the preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup, but didn't make it. And so his first appearance, he hadn't appeared on the bench when named to that squad. His first appearance was in September 2024 on the bench. And he did start 1 of their remaining 8 games and was on the bench for 5 others and not selected for 2. So Ruben's Adelaide, a likely candidate. We have him here ahead of Davy Ruard, who's been around for a lot longer. Davy Ruard is 26 years old and has 13 caps for the national team since 2022. And he is born in Guadeloupe. He plays for Baie-Mahault in Guadeloupe since 2025. However, he was with Bordeaux in France before that, from 2021 to 2024, as well as their youth club. So he was the starter, Davy Rouard, in the 2023 Gold Cup there, and since that time has started 5 of their 14 games and was on the bench for 5. Including the last 2 matches. So he's kind of been replaced as a starting keeper. And there were 4 matches that he was not selected for. So actually, I don't see the reason why we have Rubens Adelaide ahead of Davy Rouard. I think Davy Rouard seems a bit more likely, but both of them in the likely category. Let's go to the player at the possible level, Teddy Bardouche-Selbon, and he is 28 years old with 3 caps for the national team since 2023, and he was born in France and plays his club soccer in France. Currently with Greencamp since 2023 and Lorient before that. Teddy Bardouche-Selbon got his first appearance on the bench just after the Gold Cup there in September 2023, and he started 3 of their 14 games and was on the bench for 8. However, he was not selected for the last 4 matches, so we think he's getting pushed out of the picture a little bit, particularly by Rubens Adelaide. We'll have to, well, we won't see before the Cup because we don't have any friendlies to look at, so this is all the information we're going to have. We are going to summarize all of these positions in part 2, and what we mean by summarize there is we'll say how the ebb and flow of the starting players went, but we're saving that for part 2, and here we're just focusing on the candidates. So let's move on to the defense then, and we'll begin by talking about the position, or just kind of reminding you what we said in section 1. This is always a 2-man position for Guadeloupe in this period. So 2 central defenders is what we'll be looking at, and then a bit later left and right backs. But we're going to actually start with a versatile defender, not just a versatile defender, but a versatile player, because we actually see him playing in the attacking end of the field as well. So he's all over the pitch in this period. Anthony Barron, he's coded as a central defender. But played even as a defensive midfielder, and as I said, I believe it was as a right attacking winger I saw him here. So he's the only one in this candidate. I put him here because his name popped up all over the place. So Anthony Barron, I believe he's the captain of the team, although I don't have that written here. We'll update that in part 2. Anthony Barron is 33 years old and has been with Guadeloupe since 2018 with 34 caps and 2 goals. He was born in France and plays for Servette in Switzerland since 2022 and has played a couple of teams in Switzerland and in France before that. He was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, Anthony Barron, and in the 2023 edition, and over this period has started 11 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was injured for 2 and not selected for 1 other. So Anthony Barron, a definite candidate, very important player for Guadeloupe. Okay, let's move on to central defenders. And we have a definite candidate in Medellina, and a likely candidate in Nathaniel Santini, and possible candidates in Stevenson Casimir and Kenji Montantin. No candidates at the possible but unlikely level, but a couple of players seemingly off the squad here. So we'll deal with them quickly. The first is Ronan Hauteville, seemingly off the squad. He last appeared for the national team in the 2023 Gold Cup there. And the player we introduced in section 1, a big loss, a big name off the squad, Cedric Avenel, a starter in the 2009 and 2023 Gold Cups, last appearing in that 2023 Gold Cup. So both of those off the squad. Let's go back and look at the main candidates here. Mehdi Lina is 39 years old here, and he's been with Guadeloupe since 2008 with 32 caps and no goals. He is born in Guadeloupe. I would say about a third of the players were born in Guadeloupe here, and he plays in Guadeloupe for Jeunesse Evo since 2023. He did play in France, though, most recently for Boulogne in France from 2017 to 2021. And he was actually off the team for 7.5 years, which is kind of paralleling Cedric Avenel there, who had been off the team for 7 years as well. Mehdi Lina, like Avenel, played in the 2009 Gold Cup. He wasn't a starter like Avenel, but appeared in a B-team game there. And Mehdi Lina then a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup. Over the recent period, despite his age, he has started 8 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for 1 and on the bench for 3. He was also suspended for 1 match, which we're going to talk about in section 3. So that makes 2 matches that he was not selected for. So 39-year-old Mehdi Lina still going very strong and a definite candidate here. Next, we have Nathaniel Santini. And he is 25 years old with 18 caps for the national team since 2022 and currently playing in, he was born in Guadeloupe, but plays in Europe, in Switzerland with Sion or Sion. I'm not sure how to say it, and has been loaned out by Sion to various clubs, including clubs in Ukraine and Luxembourg. But for the most part, he played in France. In fact, he was with a youth club from 7 years of age in France. So despite being born in Guadeloupe, he moved over to France at a young age there. He was part of the 2023 Gold Cup, Nathaniel Santini, subbed into all 3 games there. And over the recent period, he has started 5 of their games. And that includes the last 2 matches. Started 5 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, as well as subbing in for 2. But he wasn't selected for 7 matches. But again, that's why we pointed out that he was selected for the last 2. So his recent selections are the reasons we have him as a likely candidate here. The first of 2 possible candidates is Stevenson Casimir. He is 33 years old and has been with the team since 2019, but Casimir only has 6 caps for the national team. He was born in Guadeloupe and has played in Guadeloupe his whole career. He was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, Stevenson Casimir, but where am I? He was a starter, but just for games 1 and 2 in the 2021 Gold Cup. In the 2023 edition, though, he didn't see any action there, just on the bench. And over the recent period, Casimir has started only 1 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, but he was subbed in for 1 and on the bench for 6. There were 6 matches that he wasn't selected for, and that includes the last 2 matches. So Stevenson Casimir, a possible candidate here, and doesn't seem to be a starter, but we're not really considering that in part 1 here. We'll consider it more in part 2. So a possible candidate to be selected for the final squad. The other one at that level is Kenji Montantin. And he is 24 years old, just 1 cap for Guadeloupe since 2024, and he plays in Guadeloupe with Moulien one of the biggest teams. He's been with that team since 2018. So Montantin got his first appearance on the bench in November 2024 and has started one of their remaining 4 games, as well as being on the bench for 3 others. So that recent participation almost puts him at the likely level, but we kept him at the possible level because of his short history here. So Kenji Montantin, and I'm sorry, I just feel like I'm butchering that name. I don't know how to say it in a French way. Kenji Montantin, a possible candidate. Okay, that is it for central defenders. Not many candidates here, but we will see a lot of out-of-position players for Guadeloupe, so they play kind of all over the field. And case in point here for left backs, where we just have one candidate on the list. Although, as we said, out of position players. Let's talk about the positions. So left and right backs. Well, when it's a 3-man defense, they can be pushed up to wingers, but none of that for Guadeloupe in this period. It's just a straight 4-man defense with 2 central defenders, a left back and a right back. So very standard model here. Okay, the one candidate we do have on the list is at the definite level, and it is Jerome Roussillon. So Jerome Roussillon is 32 years old. No, that doesn't sound right. Yeah, 32 years old, and just 2 caps for Guadeloupe since 2023. So again, a late joiner here. He was born in France and plays for Union Berlin in Germany since 2022 and Wolfsburg in Germany before that. Prior to that, though, he was with Montpellier in France from 2015 to 18. So, as we said, a newcomer, although he was named for the preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup. Didn't make the final cut there, but has really come into the team strongly, starting 12 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, and subbed in for one and not selected for one other. So obviously there's a mistake in the bio information I gave. Not 2 caps for the national team, but 12, all of them earned after the 2023 Gold Cup. So Jerome Roussillon, the only candidate here, not the only one who has played as left back, but we will summarize the position in part 2 here, but he's the only one kind of coded as a left back. Actually, we also have versatile defender Anthony Barron, who we introduced earlier, who did show up in this position too. Let's go though to right backs to keep looking at the candidate, and we have a definite candidate in Junior Seneville, and a possible candidate, a likely candidate in Zoran Moko. Furthermore, we have a possible candidate in Dimitri Caver, and then a player seemingly off the squad, Mikel Alphonse, who, yes, Mikel Alphonse. So again, we'll just quickly talk about him here. We did actually introduce him in section 1. So last played for the national team in the 2023 Gold Cup. All right, let's move on to talking about these players, a bit of information. So our definite candidate, Junior Seneville, is 34 years old, 11 caps just since 2023. Junior Seneville. He's born in France, born in Dunkirk, France, and played for Dunkirk. Actually, his second spell with them since 2022. That's where he is right now. So Seneville got his first cap in October 2023 and started 6 of their remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for 5 and on the bench for 1 other. So always called up, and that's why we have him as a definite candidate. Likely candidate Zoran Moko is 22 years old, and he has 5 caps for Guadeloupe since 2024, and he plays for Dijon in France since 2023. Moko got his first cap in October 2024 and started 3 of their remaining 6 games, and was on the bench for 1 other. Okay, that doesn't add up to 6, so I'll have to check into that. But anyway, the key point there is starting 3 games, so that's why we have him as a likely candidate, kind of coming in recently, but taking up a starting position for half the games. Zoran Moko, our likely candidate. And the possible candidate is Dimitri Caver, and he is 30 years old, has been with the team since 2018, but only 12 caps for Caver. He plays for a smaller team in Turkey, Umranivespor, since 2023, and was with Sion in Switzerland for 3 years before that, and Barnsley in England for 3 years before that. Prior to that, most of his clubs have been in France. Sorry, but Caver was born in Guadeloupe. Okay, Caver was on the roster for the 2021 Gold Cup, even though he wasn't on the bench for any of the 3 games there. And also, no, he was not selected for the 2023 Gold Cup. He was struggling with injuries during that time. So, Caver returned after an 18-month absence in September 2024 and started 4 of their remaining 8 games, not selected for the 4 others. However, 2 of his starts included the last 2 matches. That wasn't quite enough for us to push him up to a likely candidate, but is positive in terms of the possibility of his selection. And we consider Dimitri Caver a possible candidate here. So that is the right backs. And we're almost finished the defense, but we actually have 2 players coded just as defenders, and usually that means they haven't played enough games for the source, the websites, or for me to know what exactly their position is. So one of these is at the possible level, and then one at the possible but unlikely level. Let's deal with him first. That's Lilian Foul, or perhaps Lilian Foule, and he is 27 years old, just 1 cap for the national team. He first appeared on the bench in November 2024, didn't start any games. He was subbed in for 1, on the bench for 1, then not selected for the last 2 matches. So to us, that looked like he was just being tried out. So we have him as possible but unlikely, maybe slightly higher than that. The possible candidate is Hans Dizak, and he is 22 years old, 3 caps for the national team since 2023. He was selected for the preliminary squad for the Gold Cup, quite unexpectedly. He hadn't been on the radar before that. But over the recent period, he didn't start any of their 14 games, but he was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 8. So often called up, but not for 3 matches, including the last 2. So Hans Dezak, again, that recent participation making us a bit uncertain. So he's a possible candidate. That's it for the defense. And we move on to the midfield. So we don't have any versatile midfielders, but keep in mind the versatile defender Anthony Barron, who actually does play defensive midfield. Sometimes that's more in part 2 when we summarize the positions, but in terms of players we're looking at, we're going to begin with defensive midfielders, and we begin with a definite candidate, Andrew Gravion. He's actually coded as a central defender and secondarily as a defensive midfielder. We've moved him here because basically he fits into the narrative better here. That is a definite candidate, and we go all the way down to possible but unlikely Alexandra Aronate. Coded actually as a left winger, but we moved him to defensive midfield as he played most of his games here during the period. And in fact, we'll deal with him right away. He was active in the early part of the period, starting 6 of their 14 games. And he was subbed in for 3, but not selected for 5 matches. And I'm guessing we have him as possible, but unlikely because those 5 matches were near the end. The other possible but unlikely is Morgan St. Maximin, and he was not selected for the last 6 matches, so we won't go into detail on him, but we will come back if he is selected for the final squad. And then one player seemingly off the squad here, Quentin Annette, a substitute in the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups, but last appeared for Guadeloupe in October of 2023. So again, another player we'll come back to if he comes back into the picture by being selected for the final squad. Okay, let's add a bit of detail. We only have Andrew Gravillon to deal with here, and Gravillon is 27 years old with 19 caps and 2 goals for Guadeloupe since 2022, and playing for Adana Demirspor in Turkey since 2023. It's actually a pretty good resume here. He was with Inter Milan in Italy 2 times, and mostly played in Italy and France. He was again, I don't have whether he was born in France. I suspect he was because his youth clubs were with France. And Andrew Gravillon was a new candidate to the squad for the 2021 Gold Cup. And on the preliminary squad there, didn't make the final cut. But by the 2023 Gold Cup, he was a starter, so started all 3 games there. Recently, Gravillon has started 7 of their 14 games, subbed in for 1, but he was injured for the last 4, so we'll talk about that in section 3, and not selected for just 2 matches. So Gravillon, a definite candidate, not taking into account his injury. Again, we'll talk about that in section 3. So he's the only one in the defensive midfielders who we'll give details on, but we'll go straight to central midfielders here because basically there's not a lot of difference for Guatemala between these two. However, I should say our first candidate at the likely level, Jordan Leborn, coded as a central midfielder, but more of an attacking player here. He's at the likely level, Jordan Leborn. And then we have a possible candidate in Steve Solvet, and another possible candidate in newcomer Noah Cadieu. So we'll give more details on those players when we finish the list here. The last one actually on the list is seemingly off the squad, Johan Rootsen. Yes, we won't give details. He was actually a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup, but lost his position after game 1, and that was his last appearance for the squad in that tournament. So let's go back and look at the main candidates here. Likely candidate Jordan Leborn is 30 years old and has 16 caps and 2 goals for Guadeloupe since 2022. So another late joiner there. He plays for Quevilly-Rouen in France since 2024 and Versailles in France before that. So all of his clubs in France. However, Leborn was born in Guadeloupe. He was a starter in the 2023 Gold Cup and has started 6 of their 14 games since that Gold Cup and subbed in for 3 and not selected for 5 matches, including the last 2. So that bumped him down a notch for us. Nevertheless, we considered Leborn a likely candidate. Steve Solvet is the first of 2 possible candidates. He's 29 years old with 13 caps and 2 goals since 2021. He was also born in Guadeloupe, but has played all of his club soccer in France. Currently with Martigues, Martigues, perhaps, in France since 2024, and all of his clubs in France there. He moved from Guadeloupe in 2013 to play for a youth club in France. Solvet was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, and actually on the bench for the first game in 2023, but he was given a starting position after that, and recently has started only 4 of their 14 games since that 2023 Gold Cup, and was not selected for 10, including the last 4 matches. So actually almost at the possible but unlikely level here, Steve Solvet. I'm not sure why we put him at the possible, but we'll leave him there for now. The other possible candidate is Noah Cadieux, who is coded as a central midfielder. One of his starts was as a left attacking winger. And Cadieux was, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. He is 27 years old, but with Guadeloupe just since 2024 and has 3 caps for them. He plays for Rodez in France, and also had been with Quevilly-Rouen in France before that, and got his first cap in October of 2024, but started 3, including both of the most recent matches in March 2025, 3 of their remaining 6 games. He wasn't selected for the other 3, though, so he came in as a left attacking winger in October, wasn't selected for the 3 games after that, and then started as a defensive midfielder in both of the March games there. That's getting into the summary of the position, which is actually what we'll do in section 2. But anyway, Noah Cadieux, a possible candidate here. So those are the defensive and central midfielders, and let's move on to look at players coded as left midfielders. But I'll just say a little bit about the positions here. The 4-3-3 formation was used by Guadeloupe in 5 of their games, so we should have a left and right midfielder there. However, it's generally played by defensive or central midfielders there, so we don't really have a player who seems to specialize in the position there. However, we do have a couple of players coded as left midfielders, and we didn't really move them because they weren't being used that much. So for left midfield, we have one candidate at the possible level. That is Benoit Guédion. And Benoit Guédion is 27 years old with 4 caps for the national team since 2018. So doesn't get on the field that much. He was off the team actually for 5 years. So he returned after a 5-year absence in November of 2024 and started one of their remaining 4 games, as well as subbing in for one, but then was not selected for the last 2 matches. So that added up to possible for us. Benoit Guédion, a possible candidate. On the right side, right midfielders, we just have one candidate at the seemingly off the squad level. And that is Dimitri Ramoth, or Ramothe, and he last appeared for the national team in September 2023. He actually was part of the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cup squads. Just saw a little bit of action over those 2 tournaments, and not appearing since shortly after the 2023 Gold Cup. And we'll finish this section of kind of more defensive midfielders. Oh, I've put stuff in the wrong place there. Are seemingly off the squad. Dimitri Ramoth, a right midfielder. We do have a couple of general midfielders to talk about. So like the defenders we talked about, they haven't really played enough for us to know where they actually fit on the field. But the first one is a likely candidate. It is Kayvan Beaumont. And The other one is a possible candidate, actually son of the manager, Johan Angloma. So that's kind of interesting. Let's look at these candidates because they are at the possible level or higher. Kayvan Beaumont is 20 years old, but has 3 caps for the team since 2024. Out of the blue, he was selected for the 35-man preliminary squad for the 2023 Gold Cup. Didn't make the final cut there. So got his first cap in September of 2023, Beaumont, but he didn't start any of their remaining 14 games. He was just subbed in for 3. However, he was on the bench for 9 and just 2 matches that he wasn't selected for. So we do feel he's a likely candidate to be selected for the final squad here. The possible candidate is Johan Angloma. He is the son of the manager, as we said, which suggests that he's quite young, but he isn't. He's 32 years old and has 3 caps for Guadeloupe since 2024. And he plays in Guadeloupe and got his first cap in November 2024. Didn't start any of the remaining 4 games, but was subbed in for 3 and on the bench for 1. So not a long history with Guadeloupe, despite his father being the manager, but a good recent participation, which makes him a possible candidate to reach the cup. Okay, that is the defensive side of the midfield. And now we move on to attacking midfielders. And we have a couple of players. There's a lot of position shifting on Guadeloupe. So we have a couple of players who we put as versatile attackers because they kind of appear in various positions in the midfield. Actually, the first one is a bit ironic. Ange Freddy Ploumain, who is coded actually as a left attacker, and that's pretty much the only position he didn't play during this period. He played in other attacking positions, so we're going to call him a versatile attacker here, and he is at the definite level, Ange Freddy Ploumain. And then we have Marcus Coco, even a bit stranger. He's at the possible level. He's coded as a right back. We might have to change that in the future because he only played as an attacker here. But more than one website does have him as a right back. So perhaps, well, I was going to say perhaps earlier in his career, but he's only been with the team since 2023. So perhaps for his club, it may be that he plays as a right back. Anyway, let's look at the candidates here. Ange Freddy Ploumain, the definite candidate, is 30 years old. Again, a latecomer to Guadeloupe just since 2022, but he has amassed 22 caps and 8 goals already. And he's a real world traveler. He's currently with Nia Salmas in Cyprus since 2025 and was with a smaller club in the Ukraine, Ruch Lviv, for a couple of years before that. But he has played in Israel and Turkey, actually quite a couple of clubs in Israel, and also in England for Fulham during his career, quite a varied career there. Ange Freddy Ploumain was born in France, and I should say he didn't play any games in his 3 years with Fulham there. But his first tournament for Guadeloupe then was the 2023 Gold Cup, and he was just a substitute. But he's become a more integrated player before that. After that, having started 11 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup. He was subbed in for 1, and the only 2 matches he missed were because of injury. So Ange Freddy Ploumain, a definite candidate, but in various positions. Marcus Coco, our possible candidate here, is 29 years old and has 6 caps for Guadeloupe since 2023 and plays for Nantes in France since 2019, so quite a while with Nantes. I'm not sure if I'm saying it right. It could be Nantes. But Marcus Coco was born in Guadeloupe, so like many of their players, moves over to play for clubs in France. And Coco got his first cap right after the Gold Cup in October 2023, started 5 of their remaining 12 games, as well as subbing in for 1. But he was not selected for the last 6 matches. So Marcus Coco, a portable candidate. We often put that kind of participation, missing the last 6 matches, as possible but unlikely. But we just have the feeling that Marcus Coco is a bit more possible than that. Okay, those are the versatile. So when we do the summaries in part 2, you'll see those names popping up all over the place. Let's move on to left attacker position. And first of all, I'll talk about that term, left attacker. So Soccerphiles has come to see this as the basically left and right attacking position because they're dependent on the formation. So it could be an attacking winger, if you think of a 4-4-2 formation, an attacking midfielder, which it often will be for Guadeloupe, 4-2-3-1 formation, or a left forward, which they also use in a 4-3-3 formation. But we found it's often the same players regardless of the formation. So the only one Guadeloupe actually doesn't use that much is the left and right attacking winger in a 4-4-2 formation. Anyway, that's that. Regardless of the formation, it's usually Matthias Phaeton, our definite candidate. He is a definite candidate here. And we all have another definite candidate in Kylian Bevis. So 2 definite candidates over here, and that's it. On our list of left attackers. So let's look at these players. Matthias Phaeton is actually coded as a forward, but has played as a left attacker in this period. He is 25 years old with 31 caps and an impressive 11 goals since 2021 for Guadeloupe. And he is playing for CSKA Sofia in Bulgaria since 2023 and was otherwise in France before that. He was born in France, Phaeton, and was a starter in both the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups. And over the recent period has started 12 of their 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup on the bench for 1 and not selected for 1. So an important player, of course, for Guadeloupe, Matthias Phaeton, a definite candidate. The other definite candidate is Kylian Bevis, not as much of a starter as Phaeton, but you'll see why we have him as a definite candidate soon. He's 27 years old with 11 caps and 1 goal for Guadeloupe since 2023 and is currently playing in Serbia, having played in Malta. I think it was 2 clubs there in Malta before that. Bevis was born in France and got his first cap in September 2023, starting 5 of their remaining 14 games, but he was subbed in for 6 and on the bench for 1, so just 2 matches that he was not selected for. So yes, here we're just looking at the likelihood of candidates being selected for the final squad, not for starters, which we'll look at in part 2. So certainly not a definite starter, Kylian Bevis, but we consider him a definite candidate for selection. We move over to the right side of the field, right attackers, and we have no candidates at the definite level, but at the likely level, we have Florian David, who's actually coded as a forward. We've moved him here because his only starts were as a right attacker. And we also have Vikash Tile, or Vikash Teal, I think it's Tile. He's coded as an attacking midfielder, but again, his only start, just 1 start here, was as a right attacking winger on this side. So nevertheless, he's a likely candidate, if not a starter. And then we have seemingly off the squad, possible but unlikely, Jordan Tell. So I'll deal with him right away here. He actually started games 1 and 2 in the 2023 Gold Cup, and then got an injury which ended his tournament. And then basically wasn't used much over the recent period, didn't start any of their games, just subbed in for 2 and not selected for the other 12, including the last 6 matches. So did kind of come back halfway through the period briefly, but Jordan Tell, possible but unlikely. Let's go back to our 2 likely candidates then. Florian David is 32 years old with 10 caps and 4 goals since 2018 for Guadeloupe. So he's been around for a while, but not used that much, Florian David. He plays for a team in Luxembourg that I've honestly never heard of. It's Swift Hesperange in Luxembourg since 2024 and played in Lithuania before that. But he is French born and played in with clubs in France up until 2023. David Florian was on the Florian David was born yikes, I'm losing my tongue. Florian David, despite scoring 2 goals in qualification for the 2021 Gold Cup, was not selected for the final squad there, even for the preliminary squad. And for the 2023 Gold Cup, same thing, not even named to the preliminary squad there. And recently he returned after an almost 3-year absence in March of 2025, but started both of those games in March 2025. So a bit difficult to gauge his likelihood there, but because he started the last 2 games, we put him at the likely level, which may be slightly generous, but recent participation always makes it a bit difficult to gauge their overall likelihood. The other likely candidate is Vikash Tile, and he is 28 years old with 19 caps and 3 goals for Guadeloupe since 2019. He was born in Guadeloupe and has played for clubs in Guadeloupe his whole career. Moulin in Guadeloupe since 2022, his most recent club. He was selected for the 2021 Gold Cup. And subbed into 2 games. I'm just hesitating here because I don't have any information on him for the 2023 Gold Cup. So it seems he was off the team, but I don't have him absent during a period. So maybe I'll have to check into that and improve it in my notes here. Anyway, no notes for the 2023 Gold Cup. And recently, Tile has started only 1 of their 14 games, but he was subbed in for 4 and on the bench for 6. So there were only 3 matches that Vikash Tile was not selected for, and we thus have him as a likely candidate. Okay, that is it for right attackers, and we move on to central attacking midfield. We said that Guadeloupe favors a 4-2-3-1 formations, and they use it in 59% of their games. So they do use this position quite a bit, and also, the same player may also be a central midfielder in a 4-4-2 formation, and they use that as well. So, however, we don't have any candidates at this level. Vikash Tile is coded as an attacking midfielder, but it's actually out of position players who are in this position. So usually that's something we'll talk about in part 2, but just to satisfy here, I will say that the versatile midfielder Ange Freddy Ploumain is the main player in this position, and then central midfielder Jordan Leborn also sometimes there, especially in that 4-4-2 formation. Okay, so that is it for the attacking midfield. We move on to forwards. We include secondary strikers among those, but we don't have any players coded there, and they haven't used that position. So we go directly to forwards. And again, I'll just say we only look at formations with a 1 or 2 man forward line here. If it's 3 forwards, as in a 4-3-3 formation, we consider the outside forwards to be left and right attackers. So we would have covered them in our discussion of those positions. So for Guadeloupe, the forward line, even in a 4-3-3 formation, we consider it a single striker. So we'll say in 88% of the games, Guadeloupe uses a single striker. Just a couple of times that they have 2 forwards. We have moved a few candidates out, as you have seen. So the ones actually playing the position here is definite candidate Sylvain Merval. And then we have likely candidate Thierry Ambrose, who has actually played it more. And we have likely candidate Kenny Mixture, or Mixter. And then we have Tarek Arconti at the possible but unlikely level. And then Luther Archimedes at the seemingly off the squad level, although he actually did feature a bit prominently in this section. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And we have actually 2 other players seemingly off the squad. Oops, I forgot to put Luther Archimedes on the list here. He's the first of 3. The second is Stephen Davidas, and the third, Jeffrey Durbante. So actually, I'll cover those players at the possible but unlikely level or lower here. So we have Tarek Arconte at the possible but unlikely level. He started one of their games over the recent period, but he was injured for the last 2 matches, which we'll talk about in section 3, but most significantly not selected for 7 matches. Started one and was subbed in before, though, so we do consider him possible but unlikely. I'm guessing some of his non-selections were towards the end here, and that's why we have him at the possible but unlikely level. Okay, the first of the 3 seemingly off the squad players is Luther Archimedes, actually selected for both the 2021 and 2023 Gold Cups, and was a sub, and actually played quite a few games. Was a starter in the fall of 2023, but then quite abruptly off the squad after November 2023. So not sure what happened there, but Luther Archimedes, just 26 years old, but seemingly off the squad. The second one, Stephen Davidas, was also a sub in the 2023 Gold Cup, and also last appeared for the national team in November of 2023. And finally, Jeffrey Durband, last appeared for the national team in March of 2023. So all 3 of those players seemingly off the team, but if they do make it to the final squad, I kind of think Luther Archimedes might have the best chance of making it back onto the squad there. We'll talk in more detail if he does. Let's do the details, though, on the possible candidates and above. So the first is the definite candidate Sylvain Merval, sometimes called Raphael Merval, and he is 29 years old with 23 caps and 11 goals for Guadeloupe since 2018. And he actually has been in and around Guadeloupe since 2000 and 2021. He's played for 4 or 5 clubs, including one in Martinique, but he has also played in Europe for clubs in Italy and in France. And I don't have it written here where he was born. I suspect, though, it's Guadeloupe, because he's played for a few clubs there in Guadeloupe. Sylvain Merval was a starter in the 2021 Gold Cup, but that was his last appearance for a while, so he wasn't really a consideration for the 2023 Gold Cup. However, he came back into the picture, returning after a more than 3-year absence in September of 2024, and started 3 of their remaining games, subbing in for the 5 others. So really coming back in a big way. And maybe that's part of the reason we think Luther Archimedes may go through the same thing, seemingly off the squad and forgotten for a while, and then suddenly back in the squad as a starter quite a bit in Sylvain Marvel's case. Okay, the the likely candidate though here is probably the more likely starter, and that's Thierry Ambrose. And he is 28 years old with 17 caps and 5 goals for Guadeloupe since 2022. And he is French-born and plays for Kortrijk in Belgium. I'm not dead sure how to pronounce that name. Actually, a couple of clubs in Belgium since 2021. He was on Manchester City's roster in England from 2015 to 20, but didn't play any games for them. He was loaned out to 3 different clubs during that time, also at Manchester City's youth club, but was born in France and played his first 2 youth clubs in France, Thierry Ambrose. So his first cap in 2022, he was an immediate starter in the 2023 Gold Cup. There, and also started started only 4 of the 14 games since the 2023 Gold Cup, but he was injured for 6. He was injured for all 6 fall 2023 games, and when he came back, he wasn't immediately reinstated as the starter, so actually not even selected for 4 of the matches. However, he has started recently, and overall we have Thierry Ambrose as a likely candidate here. I actually do think he'll be the starter, but that's a matter for part 2. Let's look at the other likely candidate, Kenny Mixter. He's 22 years old with 4 caps and 1 goal for Guadeloupe since 2024, and he plays for Villefranche in France, and got his first cap in November of 2024, so just recently, starting 1 of the remaining 4 games, but subbing in for the other 3. So Kenny Mixter, a likely candidate here. And that actually brings us to the end of our look at the candidates. And so we move on to section 3, where we welcome new listeners to the mediacast here. We're releasing a short version of part 1 of Guadeloupe's players here, which just covers section 3. So I'll just speak to those listeners briefly. In the full version, we introduced the candidates and their likelihood of making the squad. We also gave some career information on the main candidates there. So if you would like, you can go to the full version for those details and the reasons for our predictions that you'll see here. So for those who have listened to section 1, this is a review summary. And once again, we're not concerning ourselves with predicting starters at this point. We're going to do that in part 2 when the final rosters are released, final and preliminary rosters. So here we're just looking at candidates and their likelihood of making it. So we begin with manager Jocelyn Angloma, been manager of the team since 2017. And we consider him a definite candidate. We don't think he would be replaced before the tournament. For goalkeepers, we have a definite candidate in Bryce Conyard, and 2 likely candidates, Davy Rouard and Rubens Adelaide, and then a possible candidate in Teddy Bartouche-Selbon. For most of these positions, we also have players at the possible but unlikely or seemingly off the squad level, but we're generally not going to mention them in this review unless we have reason to, although YouTube watchers can see those names on the screen. Okay, for defenders, we separated out Anthony Barron as a versatile defender, not just as a versatile defender, because he also played midfield and attacker also during this period. but he's a definite candidate here and appeared all over the field during this period. For central defenders, we had a definite candidate in Mehdi Lina, and then a likely candidate in Nathaniel Saintini, and two possible candidates, Stevenson Casimir and Kenji Montantin. We did mention the seemingly off the squad Cedric Avenel as the closest thing Guadeloupe has to a retiring veteran. I say it that way because no player on Guadeloupe really has more than, say, 40 caps for the team. They don't play much in this period. They didn't play from November 2023 until September 2024, and they don't play friendlies either. Okay, for left backs, we just have one candidate. It's definite candidate Jerome Roussillon. Although other players do play in the position, Guadeloupe players often play out of position. For right back, we have a definite candidate in Junior Seneville and a likely candidate in Zoran Moko, and a possible candidate also in Dimitri Caver. And again, a bit of a retiring veteran, Michael Alphonse, seemingly off the squad between the 2023 Gold Cup and now. For general defenders, these are players just generally coded as defenders. We have Hans Dizak at the possible level there. On to the kind of defensive end of the midfield. We have no versatile midfielders listed here. So for defensive midfielders, we have Andrew Gravillon, actually coded as a centre-back primarily, but playing more as a defensive midfielder here. And then that's it. That's all we have for possible, likely, or definite candidate. But keep in mind the versatile Anthony Barron also played in this position. Central midfielders, we have no candidates at the definite level, but Jordan Leborn, really a bit more of an attacking midfielder at the likely level. And then two possible candidates, Steve Solvet and Noah Cadieux, both of those at the possible level. For left midfielders, we have a possible candidate in Benoit Gedeon. But for right midfielders, we don't have any candidates that seem likely to make the squad. And then here too, we have a couple of general midfielders not coded specifically, but we do have one at the likely level, Kevan Beaumont, and then at the possible level, Johan Angloma, actually son of the manager there. At the attacking midfield, now we move on to, we did place a couple of players in the versatile section here. The first one is Ange Freddy Plumain, actually coded as a left winger, pretty much the only attacking position that he didn't play. And we have possible candidate Marcus Coco, currently coded as a right back, but that may change going forward because he just played in attacking roles. For left attackers, we have two definite candidates, Matthias Phaeton and Killian Bevis, and then no candidates other than those two on the left side. On the right side, no definite candidate, but two likely candidates in Florian David and Vikash Tile. Even though Vikash Tile just started one game, we consider him likely to be selected for the squad. And we have a couple of players like that who aren't really starters, but who are selected often enough that we consider them likely to be selected for the Cup. So that's right attackers, two likely candidates. Guadeloupe actually does use the central attacking position quite a bit, and it's usually our versatile attacker there, Ange Freddy Plumain. But the one player we did have coded as an attacking midfielder was Vikash Tile, but the only time he played was as a right attacker, so we moved him. Onto the forward line, no secondary strikers there, so just the forwards. Usually Guadeloupe uses just one. We have definite candidates Sylvain Merval, sometimes called Raphael Merval, and then two likely candidates in Thierry Ambrose and Kenny Mixter. And among the seemingly off the squad candidates, we said in section 2 that we thought Luther Archimede may make a comeback, even though right now he seems to be off the squad. All right, that is our review of the players. And let's go now to a review of injuries. We do have a couple of players on the list here. The first one is Andrew Gravillon, coded as a central defender, but playing more as a defensive midfielder during this period. He was out with a cruciate ligament tear since late October. However, he is due back on June 1st. That is 2 weeks before the tournament begins. So we're going to say that Andrew Gravillon is expected to come back. Next, we have Tariq Arconte. He's actually just at the possible but unlikely level. He was out with an ankle sprain for the March 2025 international matches, but he did return to action for his club on April 18th. So we consider him to have recovered from injury. The last one is not an injury, but just a player who got a red card in the first of the March games, and he was suspended for the second one. And it's Medellina there. So we're not sure. We just wanted to mention him in this section because he might not be available for game one. So 39-year-old Medellina, a definite candidate, central defender, a red card and was suspended for the second match. We just wonder if that suspension might carry through to the Cup, since they play no friendlies or no games before the Cup now. We didn't see any mention of it, though, on the team page or his individual player page, so we suspect he might be okay, but don't be surprised if Medellina is not available for the first game. Maybe we'll put it that way. I'll just place him in the unknown category here. Okay, that's it for injuries. Any closing thoughts on Guadeloupe? Well, we do see players playing in different positions. This is quite common for smaller clubs. Also quite common for smaller clubs is not playing many friendlies because most of their players are based in France. They really just come back to the Caribbean to play the important games. So they haven't played a lot of games over the period. They've played 17 games, whereas most other teams have played almost 25 to 30 matches. So whether that affects them in a good or bad way would be a longer discussion, but just a couple of maybe facts rather than thoughts there on Guadeloupe. Let's move to our last order of business here, previewing part 2. So again, in part 1, our focus was on listing the candidates and their likelihood of making it. In part 2, we'll think more about who we think are going to be the starters. We're going to give a summary of each position, which kind of says who's been in that position over the recent period. And then we will, of course, look at the final roster and the preliminary roster too. And we will point out any notable non-selections, any surprise inclusions, and any new players. Always seem to be a couple popping up before a tournament. And then, of course, we'll give updates on any injuries. It looks like the ones we talked about are mostly resolved, but there may be a couple of new injuries that we will have to update you on. So that is it for part 1 of Guadeloupe, and we look forward to seeing you in part 2. We would like to thank Future Bass for the wonderful music you hear in this podcast. The title is called Alone.